So in this tutorial, I will show you how you can use an image file to either texture your landscape or just as a guide to help sculpt and create your landscape, or possibly both. So this is just an image that I downloaded. I think it was from Pexels. It's just an aerial top-down view, and we've got some fields and we've got a dirt road here as well. There isn't much height in the actual image, but I'll add in a bit more detail so you can see how it's done. I'll just minimize that for a second. To start with, I just want a couple of simple layers for the landscape. So one is going to be for the road. For that, I'll use a purlin. So I'm going to right click in the graph and search for purlin. I'll add a purlin, just rotate the angle a bit. I'm going to increase the scale, and I just want something that's flat. Doesn't have to be completely flat, of course, but just flat for the road with a bit of detail like this. As it is a mud road, it's good to have this a bit of detail. Select that purlin, press Ctrl D to double it up. I'm going to change the seed, and this way I can have a bit of variation, and also I can actually mask out from one purlin node to another, which I will show you very shortly. So now I've done this, I'm going to drag off of the first purlin and just plug it into the socket, the out socket of the second purlin. In the combine, I'll just keep them blended together at 0.5. I might tweak that or change it later on, but for now that's fine. Now what I'm going to do now is actually sculpt in the road, and I need the actual image to do that. So I'm going to select this combine here. First of all, I'm going to press F2 and I'm going to call it Combine Road, just so it identifies that specific combine, which will be useful later. I'm going to press P with it still selected, and I'm going to convert that to a portal. I'm going to right click, search for texture, select a texture base. I'm going to press P in the in socket. I'm going to select the Combine Road, which I just created. Now I'm going to drag from out and search for file. So a file node is where you can bring in your textures or your image files. And you can just select that, and then you can click on the in its details, you can click on the little folder browser there, or a quicker way, which I tend to use, I just drag the image from the Windows browser folder into the graph, and there you go, you can see it immediately. I'm just going to delete that other file node there. That was just to show you. One thing that's important is that make sure it's set to is RGB, as this is a color file. It's not a grayscale, it's color. So make sure that's ticked. Everything else for this we can leave off or on its default settings. Now I'm just going to drag out from the texture base and plug to the in of the color file, and there you go. So just a couple of points to this. I downloaded this image from online. It didn't come as a square, so I cropped it to a perfect square. And the reason simply is so when I bring this image onto the landscape, there's no stretching or skewing. So as these landscapes in Gaea are always square, it just matches up with the square shape. Now, it's a little bit dark, but I can fix that later on. Or, I may fix it in Unreal Engine or Blender or Maya or whatever is your final output. For now, that's fine. I can see it good enough. I am seeing detail from the purlin. That's these kind of shapes here. If I just click on texture base, you can see all the detail from the purlin. That's why we're getting this more bumpy land. For now, that's fine. Now, with file, select it, press F to force it. So by forcing it, I'll always be able to see that color file, that image file. And now back in the combine, I'm going to drag off, search for draw, add a draw node. So the draw node, when you're using it in this way, plugging it into the mask of a combine, it'll mask out the node that's plugged into the second socket. So in this case, this purlin node here is being masked out. All I need to do now, select draw. So with draw selected, I'm just going to make sure first, before I do anything else, on the top right hand side, click on the little drop down button and make sure it's set to mask. Now we can click on open painter. And because we forced the image file, we can see the actual landscape image in Painter. I just need to reduce the size of the brush, something like that. I'll do it so it's a bit bigger than the road. That should be fine. Height, I'm going to adjust it up more into the lighter or white area, which reveals, and black hides, and hardness I can keep as it is. The strength of this we'll control in another way. And now simply, let's just draw over the road. And as you can see immediately, we can see the effect there on our landscape. So I'm just going to draw across the road. Oops, that was weird. I'm just going to undo that. It stayed in draw mode for some reason. I think that's a bit of a bug in draw, but not a problem. I'll just do that again. And for this, that looks fine. And that's done. So that's great. So what you can see is at some point, we have got, or at some points, we have got the road which is higher. And in some areas, it's actually lower. You just position it. Now, I want this all to be lower. You may want it to be higher. It's completely like your choice, what effect you're looking for. I want this to all be pressed downwards or indented downwards. Now, the reason that it's higher in some places and lower in other places, it's just where the two purlin nodes are crossing over each other. And what we can do is just to get it so it's always going down. We can select this purlin node here. This is the one that's masked, so it's a second purlin node. And in its modifier stack, there's a drop. So if you click the drop, like so, you can see it's really dropped it a lot. Maybe more than we wanted, but that's actually dropped the height of the purlin. Okay, so that's great. That's working, but we don't want our road to be this, like, ridiculously dug into the landscape. So what we can do is, in the modifiers stack, click on the little plus button first in the row and go to clamp. Now in this case, we actually don't want to bring it down, the clamp. We actually want to go from the 0 value and actually increase it, which should, in a moment, there you go, it pushes up the road. And then you could have the whole road elevated above the fields like this. I want it pushed down a bit. I think that matches the photo better, so I'm going to have it something like that. And this gives us really nice control over the height of our road. This still, though, is looking a little bit unnatural. It's quite a sharp edge we've got there. So finally what I'm going to do is, from the draw node, I'm going to drag off, search for blur, add a blur, drag off from the blur, plug that in to combine. And that's the mask socket of combined. And then I'm just going to drag down the radius of the blur because it's really strong. That's looking a bit better. And I think, yeah, that looks good. So you can play around with these values as you wish, but that gives you the principles on how to add a road, or one way that you can add a road, using an image as a guide. So this is pretty much done now. Let's just say you wanted to add some more detail in it. So you wanted to add some higher ground. What we could do is, above the purlin node, right click, search for mountain. We can add a mountain range. Let's just stop the file from forcing. We've got our mountain range here. Bring up the height, like so. Let's change the seed. What I'm looking for is just mountains that cover the landscape. I could blend two mountain ranges together, but for the sake of time, and just to show you the principles, I'll stick with this one. That should be fine. I'm just going to have a look at the file. Let me actually, yeah, this is better. Let's stick with this one. That looks good. Now, I'm going to drag off of the mountain range. Actually, I want the mountain range to be masked out first. So let's drag off from the combine. Let's combine the two purlins and let's plug that into the mountain range. So what that means is that the mountain range is actually going to be bottom, which is what I want. Let's move that, drag that down there, so it sits beneath those other nodes. And now you can actually see straight away the road is there. The blend is just set to blend in 0.5. I'm going to add another draw node, so I'm going to drag off the mask socket, search for draw, and then it masks out everything. And you can see all we've got is the purlin and the road. I'm going to select file, press F to force it, select draw, make sure it's set to mask, open painter. Increase the size, and now let's say over here, this looks like it could be a bit more bumpy. Let's just paint in the mountain. Now the reason we're not actually seeing any effect is because I forgot to do this combine road is coming from the first combine. Let's just, in our second combine, let's just call that F2 and combine final. Make sure I spell that correctly. Press P, add a portal to the out. In the texture base, select it, press P, and then in the in socket, press combine final. And now we've got we can actually see the effect it's having, like so. Now obviously we don't want it dropping down like that. I mean, I suppose it's possible you might want that, but in this case, I want it to go up and not down. So what I'm going to do is select the combine. I'm going to change it to add, and now it's lifting the landscape up. I can change the actual blending value, so maybe drop it down a bit. And again, to give a more natural blend, drag off from the draw node, search for blur, and then plug that into the socket, the mask socket. And there you go, it gives us that blur. To be honest, that value there that it's come with, 0.1, matches pretty good. Maybe I could drop it a little bit. There you go. But that's it. That pretty much covers it. So, I mean, yeah, this just shows you the principles. You could spend a lot more time sculpting in detail. You could blend other layers in. Just keep using combine and draw, and you could blend them in, and then you've got your landscape. If you did, one final point, if you did want to change the lighting in Gaea, what you can do is drag off from the file, search for something called, it's called Light X, and then we want the drag off from the file again, and we want that to go into the texture. But then the in socket, we actually want to use the final node from our landscape, our terrain nodes, which in this case is the combine final. That's the last node in the sequence of nodes. Press P, and where it says in, select in, and then select combine final. It just needs information about the landscape as well. Now, press F to force it. Actually, we don't need to, we can get rid of the force completely, so we don't need to force any nodes. Just make sure the file is not forced. So press F on it to unforce it, and then select Light X. You can increase the exposure like so, and there you go. You can see it's much lighter. So this pretty much covers it. I might sculpt this a little bit more to bring out the details a bit more, but I'll do that in a time lapse to speed things up for this sake of this tutorial. And if you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them in the comment section. And thanks for watching.